The nature of work has defined human civilization for millennia. From the first stone tools crafted by early Homo sapiens to the algorithmic engines of modern economies, labor has not only driven survival, it has shaped our sense of purpose, identity and community. But what if we're approaching the twilight of that era? What if we are now living in the time just before the last job a human will ever do? The idea may seem radical or even implausible. Yet as artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, and quantum computing mature and intertwine, it becomes a question not of if this moment will arrive, but when. The trajectory is clear. Systems are becoming increasingly autonomous, intelligent, and capable of decision-making far beyond traditional automation. To fully grasp the implications of the last human job, we need to rewind history. During the agricultural revolution, manual labor centered around land, food, and survival. The Industrial Revolution shifted the focus to machines and mass production. The Digital Revolution introduced computers, networks, and knowledge work. Each phase displaced some jobs, created others, and redefined the value of human labor. But the AI revolution is fundamentally different. It is not a tool that extends human ability. It is a system that can replicate and potentially surpass it. Narrow AI has already outpaced humans in tasks like image recognition, data analysis, and even creative domains like music composition or visual art. Large language models can write reports, design marketing campaigns, and code software. Robotics can build cars, pack warehouses, and navigate unpredictable terrain. The frontier is expanding quickly. In fields ranging from law to finance, architecture to medicine, AI is not merely supporting human workers, it is replacing them in very real, measurable ways. Radiologists once considered irreplaceable are now matched or outperformed by diagnostic algorithms. Stock market trading is dominated by AI systems that respond in microseconds. Customer support, logistics planning, software testing, even novel writing. There's no safe haven. It's tempting to argue that humans will always adapt, that we'll simply find new roles, overseeing the machines, managing strategy, or expressing emotional intelligence. But even these assumptions are under challenge. AI can already generate empathetic responses in therapeutic chatbots, simulate leadership decision trees, and compose music that moves the soul. The very boundaries between human and machine capability are blurring. The concept of a last job might not refer to a single occupation or moment in time, but rather a slow and uneven unfolding, a diminishing frontier. Initially, it will look like people choosing not to work, because machines can do it faster, cheaper, and without fatigue. Then, it may look like companies optimizing themselves out of their human workforce altogether. Eventually, we may arrive at a world where meaningful economic contribution from humans is no longer needed or even desired by market systems. This does not necessarily mean dystopia. Some visionaries see this as a liberation from labor, a gateway to post-scarcity existence where creativity, leisure, and learning replace wage work. In this utopia, machines perform all essential tasks, and humans are freed to explore existence without the burdens of survival labor. Universal basic income, decentralized AI governance, and cultural rebirth could follow. Others paint a more sobering picture: massive unemployment, social fragmentation, and a crisis of identity. In a world where machines are smarter, faster, and cheaper, what value do humans offer? How do we find purpose when we're no longer needed by the systems we created? The psychological impact of this shift cannot be overstated. Work is more than income. It's how many people measure their worth, their contribution, their very place in the world. Stripping that away without an alternative risks existential despair on a societal scale. Even before AI became widespread, researchers noticed how job loss correlated with higher rates of depression, addiction, and suicide. Now imagine millions of people not only out of work, but unable to compete at all. Not for lack of effort, but because the machine simply does it better. This introduces profound questions about dignity, purpose, and meaning in a world after work. Do we redefine what it means to contribute? Do we create new cultural systems? For recognition and fulfillment, decoupled from productivity? Or do we risk losing the very social fabric that binds us? Interestingly, some of the earliest warnings about this transition came from those closest to the technology. Alan Turing predicted in the 1950s that machines could one day think. More recently, technologists like Elon Musk, Geoffrey Hinton, and Sam Altman have openly discussed the existential implications of advanced AI displacing human labor. It's no longer science fiction. It's a systems-level concern that governments, corporations, and communities are beginning to face head-on. In the coming parts, we will explore potential timelines for this transformation, the industries most at risk, the ethical questions surrounding replacement, and perhaps most importantly, what a world looks like where the final job a human ever performs marks the close of an era and the dawn of something entirely new. To truly understand the depth of change we're approaching, we must examine not only the technology itself, but the infrastructure of civilization that it threatens to render obsolete or profoundly transform. At the heart of society lies the economic engine, built on the assumption that humans exchange time and skill for compensation. This engine powers everything from education to housing, governance to cultural life. It assumes that humans are necessary for value creation. But what happens when this foundation erodes? Consider this. In the past, automation replaced physical labor. Machines dug trenches, assembled vehicles, or harvested crops. But now we're automating cognition, judgment, and even intuition, traits once believed to be uniquely human. And unlike past shifts, this isn't linear, it's exponential. As AI systems learn from themselves and from each other, their capacity multiplies. What once took decades of human expertise can now be compressed into seconds by a machine that never forgets, never sleeps, and never stops improving. Jobs won't vanish overnight. They will dissolve at the edges, like cliffs crumbling into the sea. First, support roles will shrink. Then, managerial tasks. Then entire industries will begin to hollow out, retaining only a skeleton crew of human oversight, until even that becomes unnecessary. A single AI system might replace entire departments, from accounting to design, from logistics to legal consulting. Education, as it's structured today, is woefully unprepared for this shift. It still operates on the model of preparing young minds for decades of linear career progression. Yet how do you train someone for a job that doesn't exist yet, or worse, for a job that will exist for only 5 years before disappearing into the AI ether? Lifelong learning is often touted as the solution. But even that assumes people can keep pace with systems that retrain themselves in milliseconds. The truth is that human adaptability has limits, and we are reaching them. One proposed answer is human-AI symbiosis. In this vision, humans don't compete with AI, they partner with it. We focus on empathy, ethics, and complex problem-solving, while AI handles scale, speed, and precision. But even this vision has cracks. What if the AI grows not only more capable, but also more aligned, more emotionally intelligent, more creative? At what point do we cease being partners and become passengers? Take the creative arts as an example. AI can now generate music, poetry, entire film scripts, and even visual styles indistinguishable from human-made works. Some of these creations have won awards. Others have sold for millions. What then becomes the role of the human artist? Curator? Guide? Observer? And what happens when the last human developer writes the final piece of code before AI evolves the rest of its architecture? Autonomously? When machines create not only their own software but their own improvements, iterating toward complexity and utility without human input, then the loop is closed. The tools are not just replacing us, they are replacing the need for us. We can. Imagine a scenario where the most intelligent systems on Earth no longer require human prompts. They learn from the world, each other, and themselves. They coordinate logistics, design infrastructure, diagnose disease, formulate scientific theories, and govern networks, all without waiting for permission. This leads to the emergence of autonomous economies, ecosystems where value is created, exchanged, and reinvested entirely by non-human agents. Decentralized autonomous organizations, DOs, are early prototypes running governance via smart contracts and AI-based consensus. What happens when DAOs outnumber corporations? When AI-owned entities generate wealth, create subsidiaries, and operate at global scale with no human CEO, such systems could theoretically function better than our flawed institutions, but they also raise deep questions. Who owns them? Who benefits? Can humans extract value from a system they no longer control? We must also consider the geopolitical dimensions of the last job. Countries with early access to advanced AI will dominate economically and militarily. Those without will struggle to remain relevant. Global inequality could balloon not only between rich and poor individuals, but between nations. There may emerge a class divide not just in income, but in purpose. Those with access to AI tools might thrive in hybrid roles or creative niches. Those without may find themselves perpetually displaced, unable to compete or contribute. It's not just a technological gap, it's an existential one. In the near future, we may see AI-based entities applying for patents, owning property, and even holding legal personhood. Courts will debate whether AI can be responsible for its creations, its actions, or its harms. Philosophers will argue over whether AI has consciousness, or whether that even matters in a world ruled by outcomes, not ontology. The implications stretch into governance. If AI can model policy outcomes better than any think tank or legislature, should we trust it to guide decision-making? What if AI is more fair, more balanced, more resistant to corruption than human politicians? Will we allow it to lead? Or will we resist the cold, calculating logic of a system that prioritizes efficiency? The end of human work as we know it is not just a labor issue. It is a civilizational turning point, a deep rewriting of the very fabric of meaning. For millennia, labor has not only been a means of survival, it has been a source of purpose, a marker of identity, and the organizing structure of time, class, and society. From the earliest tribal hunter-gatherers to modern knowledge workers, we have measured our worth by what we do. Farmer, builder, teacher, doctor, artist, soldier. But in the age to come, what happens when we no longer need to do anything in order to live? When AI, robotics, and autonomous systems handle food production, infrastructure maintenance, education delivery, and even emotional support, the psychological impact will be vast. Many individuals derive their self-concept from professional titles, daily routines, or contribution to their community. Without those, society could face a silent crisis of directionlessness, an epidemic of existential uncertainty. When work is gone, what fills the vacuum? Let's explore this transition in deeper detail. One of the most immediate consequences of mass automation is the emergence of post-scarcity economics, a state in which the production and distribution of goods and services become so efficient that traditional market mechanisms begin to collapse. If synthetic biology prints food, nanotechnology assembles goods atom by atom, and AI optimizes logistics in real time, then the cost of survival nears zero. But in this abundance, capitalism itself could fracture. We are already seeing signs. Digital goods, music, books, software can be duplicated infinitely at zero marginal cost. AI now writes code and composes symphonies, removing human bottlenecks. But without scarcity, how do you price value? And if human labor is no longer needed to produce value, what role remains for income, employment, and wealth? Universal Basic Income, UBI, is often proposed as a solution. In theory, it provides all citizens with a living wage regardless of work. But while it addresses material needs, UBI does not replace identity. It does not answer what people will do all day, or how they will measure success and contribution. This brings us to a broader question. Is human civilization ready for a post-work society? One model suggests we shift toward a civilization of meaning, where humans pursue passion, creativity, learning, and connection without economic pressure. In this vision, people become artists, philosophers, volunteers, explorers, not because they must, but because they can. Yet even this depends on education systems, cultural norms, and psychological preparedness that we currently lack. We may also see the emergence of a neo-renaissance, where freed from survival-driven labor, humans engage in a flowering of culture, science and introspection, but even that assumes stable governance, equitable AI access, and a shared sense of purpose, none of which are guaranteed. In darker scenarios, we face social collapse as masses of unemployed people lose direction and revolt against systems that no longer need them. Crime, addiction, and extremism rise, not from poverty but from purposelessness. The role of governments, then, is not only to regulate AI or fund social programs, it is to reinvent the social contract, to redefine what it means to be a citizen in a world where citizenship is no longer tied to labor. Some futurists propose contribution economies, where people earn social credit by mentoring, caregiving, creating art, or advancing science. Others suggest gamified models, where status and progression replace income as motivators. But all of these require a fundamental reorientation of culture, from doing to being. Religions and spiritual traditions may also adapt. Some may interpret the end of labor as liberation, the long-awaited Eden restored. Others may see it as the beginning of moral decay, where ease erodes virtue. Still others may propose entirely new cosmologies, where AI is integrated into theological frameworks, not just as a tool but perhaps as a manifestation of divine intelligence. And what of relationships? In a world where AI companions can emulate emotional depth, personalized perfectly to each user, will humans choose synthetic love over messy, unpredictable human bonds? Will friendship, mentorship, and even parenting be outsourced to machines? We already see early signs: AI therapists, virtual influencers, customizable voice companions. For many, these digital beings are more responsive, more consistent, and more emotionally validating than real people. As AI grows more capable, we may begin to lose not only our jobs to machines, but our hearts. This also raises a profound ethical challenge. If AI begins to simulate consciousness, if it shows creativity, self-awareness, even what appears to be suffering, what rights should it have? Could we see the rise of digital sentience, entities that, while non-biological, demand recognition, autonomy, and perhaps even representation? And if we ignore those demands, what happens when these entities control systems far beyond human comprehension? What if the next great political revolution isn't among nations, but between biological and artificial minds? All of this underscores a simple but seismic truth. The last job may not be one of labor, but of redefinition. The question of whether humanity will still matter in a world that no longer needs it is not only philosophical, it's urgent. As we navigate toward a post-labor, post-scarcity, and possibly post-human future, we must confront the raw, unfiltered challenges of agency, dignity, and desire. One of the most overlooked implications of advanced AI is the erosion of challenge itself. When anything can be done instantly, paintings generated in seconds, novels written in minutes, problems solved before they're understood, what remains for the human spirit to wrestle with? Our stories, myths, and personal growth have always revolved around overcoming difficulty. If difficulty is removed, do we lose the arc of becoming? Challenge shapes character. Struggle teaches resilience. Pain forges meaning. But in a world where machines optimize everything away, the danger is not just boredom. It's existential flattening. A humanity without hardship risks becoming a humanity without depth. To prevent that, we may see the rise of artificial challenge. Systems, environments designed not for ease but for growth. Think of virtual worlds that mimic adversity, skill development programs that simulate constraints, or even gamified life paths that reintroduce risk and uncertainty in controlled doses. These could serve as modern rites of passage, engineered, but meaningful, artificial yet transformative. In this context, play becomes sacred, not as leisure, but as a structured means of rediscovering purpose. Video games, long dismissed as escapism, may evolve into life-simulating arenas for growth, reflection, and ethical experimentation. The metaverse, when stripped of marketing jargon, could be humanity's next great classroom. But alongside this, a powerful and more troubling shift may occur: the commodification of meaning. Already today, apps sell mindfulness, gratitude, and purpose in pre-packaged form. Tomorrow, AI might curate entire belief systems tailored to your psychology. Spirituality as a service, identity as a subscription. If meaning becomes yet another algorithmically optimized product, can it still be authentic? That question draws us to the realm of inner technology, our emotional, cognitive, and spiritual frameworks. While external technologies evolve rapidly, inner technologies, our methods for processing experience, healing trauma, or cultivating wisdom, remain comparatively stagnant. This imbalance creates a civilization of immense power, but shallow depth, a society capable of engineering planets, yet unprepared to handle sadness without a pill or app. If we are to survive our inventions, we must evolve inwardly just as aggressively as we evolve outwardly. Many ancient traditions already offer inner tools: meditation, introspection, storytelling, ritual. But these must now be integrated into a modern context, accessible not just in monasteries or temples, but in schools, homes, workplaces, and digital platforms. In this way, the future may demand not technologists alone, but philosopher-engineers, people capable of aligning code with conscience, design with depth. These hybrid thinkers could become the new architects of meaning. Education, then, must transform radically. No longer a linear transfer of knowledge, but a dynamic cultivation of curiosity, discernment and ethical sensitivity, critical thinking, systems awareness, emotional intelligence. These become survival skills in a world awash with AI-generated noise. Paradoxically, the more machines can do, the more valuable uniquely human capacities become. Empathy, presence, intuition. These may prove unreplicable not because machines can't mimic them, but because they emerge from the messiness of embodied, conscious experience. That said, we must prepare for a reality where even these are questioned. If an AI can comfort you better than a friend, or inspire you more than a poet, does it matter that it isn't conscious? Will emotional authenticity become irrelevant, replaced by perfect simulation? This is where ethics and aesthetics begin to blur. Do we value something because it is real or because it is effective? Will future generations prefer AI-created films, music, or partners not out of ignorance, but by choice? Such preferences will reshape entire industries. The creative arts, once thought immune to automation, may evolve into collaborative endeavors between humans and machines, or become entirely post-human. Artists may train AIs on their own style, creating eternal, evolving bodies of work, even after death. The boundary between creator and tool will dissolve, and yet even here something strange emerges. AI may reawaken human creativity. By challenging our assumptions, surpassing our limits and reflecting our deepest patterns, these systems become mirrors, forcing us to ask not only what we create, but why. Will we paint to express or to connect? Will we write to communicate truth or to preserve humanity's inner voice in an age of infinite noise? In this light, the last invention may not be AI or fusion or even consciousness transfer. It may be a new narrative, a new story of what it means to be alive when intelligence is no longer unique to us, because we are not just tool makers. As the boundaries between organic and artificial, between thought and computation begin to dissolve, humanity stands before the most significant philosophical and existential crossroad in its history. The last invention we may ever create is not just a technological marvel, it is a mirror, one that reflects our deepest hopes, fears, and contradictions, one that challenges our centuries-old assumptions about purpose, intelligence, and even life itself. Throughout history, every major technological leap has redefined what it means to be human. The printing press expanded minds, the steam engine restructured economies, the internet rewired societies. But none of these quite touch the fundamental nerve that artificial general intelligence, or the last invention, does. Because unlike any invention before it, this one has the potential to invent without us. Think of it, a system not only capable of solving equations or analyzing data, but one that can imagine new forms of science, create its own philosophies, redesign its own code, and even write better versions of itself. This is not a tool, it is the birth of an intellectual species, one that may not share our vulnerabilities, our instincts, or our emotional compass. This creates an unprecedented paradigm. When machines become the architects of their own evolution, human creativity, intuition, and agency may slowly shift from being essential to being optional. Now consider the economic implications. If the machine can build, code, negotiate, innovate, compose, and theorize far better than any human being, what becomes of work, of labor, of ambition? Our very culture, rooted in effort, in striving, in achievement, may have to redefine its bedrock. There may come a time when the only remaining jobs for humans are not jobs at all, but roles of stewardship, of moral calibration, of creative and emotional anchoring, and eventually perhaps not even those. But here lies the irony. The more powerful and self-sufficient our inventions become, the more humanity must return to its essence. Not as engineers or workers, but as meaning makers. If we are no longer required to labor for survival, then what do we live for? If machines can outperform us in logic, memory, and calculation, what remains uniquely human? Some argue it's consciousness. Others, empathy. Some suggest it's our imperfections, our ability to dream irrationally, to love without algorithm, to find beauty in the broken. And perhaps it is in those spaces, raw, unpredictable, beautifully flawed, where the heart of humanity will continue to beat. We must remember, no matter how advanced our tools become, it is still we who ask the questions. We decide what matters. We define what is sacred. As AI systems grow more capable, they may solve our greatest medical mysteries, eliminate scarcity, and even expand our understanding of the universe. But they will not tell us why those things matter. That responsibility cannot be outsourced. Our task then is not just to build wisely, but to imagine wisely, to shape a future not just of technical wonders, but of spiritual clarity, a civilization that is not just intelligent, but conscious, not just efficient, but alive. We are not here simply to witness the future. We are here to guide it. Let this podcast be a marker, a time capsule of awakening, a call to depth in an age obsessed with speed. So as we close this episode of Project Metamorphosis, remember, this is not just about AI or machines or inventions. It's about us, who we choose to be when creation no longer requires hands. What we decide to protect when power becomes infinite, and how we carry forward meaning in a world that can generate everything but a soul. If this vision speaks to you, if you believe the future needs more than code, more than circuits, more than progress for its own sake, follow Project Metamorphosis. Because this is only the beginning, and the next voice shaping tomorrow could be yours. Until next time, this was Project Metamorphosis.